Right. So now I'm going to go to Kwesi. Kwesi, you listened to the introductory speeches and the keynote address. After decades of low, this is a long one. After decades of low and declining productivity, African agriculture has started to grow again, as Usman was demonstrating, and is experiencing increasing positive productivity growth rates. While there is progress, agricultural productivity among African countries still lags behind that of other regions. The recent rate of growth of productivity is nowhere near to reducing the gap, let alone filling it. In your position, where do you see the most critical technology challenges and opportunities that African agriculture will face, that African countries need to respond to in order to significantly raise productivity and transform living conditions in rural areas?
Thank you very much. Indeed, that's a long one. But let me start by saying that I think we should all feel proud that Africa has indeed made progress. And I mean, sitting back and looking at the Atta-Krah report and seeing all those indicators, it's really something to be proud of. Secondly, I would say that the major challenges that we face are not all necessarily of a technological nature. Yeah, so even though I've been asked to talk about technological changes, I want to make a very strong point that the challenges often are not just technological. As a matter of fact, over-reliance on technology development as sole pathway to productivity and livelihoods enhancement is often part of the problem that we need to deal with. We need to make sure that technological change is made possible in a profitable and sustainable manner for our farmers. And this requires external inputs, and it also requires policies, enabling policies that have to be put in place within our respective countries. A critical challenge is the often inadequate coordination across the technological end of the spectrum and the sociocultural, or if you like, the institutional innovation end, and how policy helps to link all these three together into one integrated, productive, and sustainable whole. And this is what needs to be fixed. Having said that, let me briefly mention 5 key areas that I feel need attention. The first, I would say, is a whole need for putting sustainable intensification at the center of technology development. As we saw from the figures that Usman showed, by 2050, we're supposed to have in Africa 100% more production. It would be a failure if that increase comes from clearing the remaining forest lands and the remaining lands that we have. So we definitely need to intensify, but it has to be based on sustainability. So sustainable intensification needs to be a paradigm that drives all our efforts in this regard. Now, this requires healthy and productive soils through both organic and inorganic means. Low fertilizer use in Africa is a problem. I mean, we all are familiar with the Green Revolution and the dangers that can come through overuse of fertilizer. In Africa, we are far from that problem. The key problem we have is no use of fertilizer. We are the continent with the lowest fertilizer use. So it's not surprising that we have a huge gap to catch up in. So basically, countries need to have the kind of policies that makes this fertilizer available, but also the kind of knowledge that ensures that they are appropriately used. A second area, well, still under the sustainable intensification issue, is strategic breeding to address key constraints. And here I'm not just talking about breeding for increase or more productivity, but also breeding for resilience against biotic and abiotic stress, especially the kind of challenge that climate change is putting on our table. And also breeding in ways that lead to particular farmer and market preferences. Now this, of course, leads us to the terminology of climate smart agriculture that has been, coming in and receiving visibility. My hope is that it will not just be another, catchphrase that everybody uses, but that it will actually translate into real practical, implementable programs at country level. Second point is the need to ensure that we intensify the whole value chain development process within research and development. And this is particularly so for the major commodities, and also strengthen the market linkages for all levels of production, from small-scale production, medium-scale production, large-scale production. Thirdly, more attention needs to be put to addressing the issues and challenges facing the smallholder farmer. I mean, in Africa, over 60% of the food that we eat comes from the smallholder farms. But when you look at the emphasis that is placed on really improving these systems, it's really below par. When we talk of smallholder farmer, a lot more emphasis needs to be placed on the gender dimension. New business, particularly supporting the role of women farmers as an important labor force and multiplier of benefits to household members. A lot needs to be done in this regard. Fourthly is the issue of youth. If we don't come up with a strategy to make sure that agriculture and agri-food systems is attractive to the youth, we cannot reach where we want to reach. It's as simple as that. We really need to come up with policies and strategies to make sure that the youth can get involved, not only in terms of direct farming, on the ground, but also in the area of agriculture as business, with links to commodity processing, ICTs, smart marketing, etc. And my last point is related to the need for us to be a bit holistic when we look at agricultural research for development. Systems approaches to agricultural research and development is required to make sure that we can actually look at the impact of different components as they relate to the overall sustainability of the systems, and also to the ability to deliver livelihood enhancement strategies that benefit smallholder farmers. Thank you.